5:30, I'll call the December 15th meeting of the URAC committee to order. First thing on the agenda is business from the audience, and we do have testimony from one young lady, Kate McBride.
I've been known for short and sweet, and that's what I am, short and sweet. So this won't be very long. But I just wanted to publicly acknowledge a couple members of your committee. Josh Chandler, thank you for your service. It's been great having you. I haven't been to your meetings, but I have read meeting minutes, and you guys have all been great participants, but you're going to be going off, and thank you for your service. We really appreciate it. Pat McAllister, you have been on some kind of committee for I don't know how many years. Okay, I knew it was a long time. Budget committee first, right? Yeah, and then on this committee, you know, and it just shows the testament of your strength and your wisdom helping us through a lot of the different things we've had to do in the city, both budget wise and on urban renewal. Making sure that all voices are heard. Really appreciate it. And so I just wanted to come to the meeting to acknowledge the people that were leaving. I appreciate everyone here doing all your work, but the two people that are leaving, I just want to especially say thank you so much for your service. The city really appreciates you putting in all the time. Thank you. Okay.
As a token of your appreciation, I have put her a water bottle. Honey, you can hang on the wall or something. You don't leave around. Your water.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Any other business from the audience? If not, we'll move on to, are there any additions or corrections to the agenda for tonight? Anybody got anything else? Okay.
Mr. Chair, if you have a couple minutes, I would love at some point you could do an update on the council work planning session that they just held, and just a couple other small updates since your last meeting.
Okay, we'll do that after. We'll put that in after agenda item number 6.
Sounds good.
Okay. Now, approval. Everybody's received copies of the minutes. Approval of the minutes from the October 20th meeting. Are there any corrections, additions, changes that anybody sees? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve those. Motion to approve the budget. Okay, Kate.
A second.
Okay, second by Josh to approve the minutes from October 20th. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carried, minutes approved. Okay, urban renewal administrator. I can see Dustin, so that's going to be Abigail.
Yeah, it's me today. Great. Thank you, Mayor.
Have a Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Well, I am pleased to call on Jonathan to join us today. In our conversations recently, but so much of what the city talks about is safe routes to schools, and you know, as the schools are not in the urban renewal districts, but certainly lots of people travel through our schools. And so with that, I thought if we could have Jonathan come say he's been the city's representative on that project, to give you just an overview of the safe routes to school projects. Things we've been working on, and if you have questions or thoughts on that, we'd love to hear that. Just as background, I'm not necessarily looking for any decisions or recommendations today, but it's an important collaborative project with the school district, the park district, others. So I think what John has prepared today is very similar to something he provided to city council a little while ago.
Yeah,
so
shortened.
Update. So with that, I will turn it over to Jonathan.
Let me set up here and we'll get rocking and rolling. Sure. All right, great. Good evening, committee members. Nice to see everybody in person. I don't think I've seen anybody here since we stopped doing digital. When I come out of hiding and say hi every once in a while. I'm the city's GIS coordinator and Safe Routes to School liaison, Jonathan Gill. Tonight, I'd like to present to you a quick recap of what the city's done with its partnering organizations over the last couple of years through the ODOT grant-funded Safe Routes to School project identification program. So in the fall of 2020, the city was awarded the ODOT Safe Routes to School project identification program grant. The grant financed the professional services of the Alta Planning and Design team out of Portland to work with us and our organizational stakeholders to develop a Safe Routes to School plan that would identify and lay out projects that address existing barriers and safety concerns within a mile radius of the 2 public schools within city limits. Most emphasis on the 1/4 mile radius immediately around those schools. So in the fall, lost my script spot. Beyond that, the project aimed to facilitate working relationships and collaboration between organizations and the school-going public on Safe Routes to School initiatives, key in on identifying projects that could be eligible for ODOT grants, similar to that of the 2015 May Street project, create pathways and integrate identified projects into the larger planning initiatives, such as the TSP and urban renewal. The project itself was broken into 4 notable phases: project initiation, school safety, engagement, and the deliverable review process. During the initiation phase, the project scope was finalized, and that was to maintain within the city limits. As it was a city project, that was where our jurisdiction ends. All participating agencies shared existing policy and prior active transportation work to create a solid foundation to move forward. Additionally, the management team, or the PMT, was identified. The team consisting of the Alta staff and representatives from the city, ODOT Region 1, Hood River County School District, Hood River Parks and Recreation, Columbia Area Transit, and the Mid-Columbia Economic Development District then took steps to define the project's priorities. The project priorities, in short, we prioritize safety improvements, the development of connections in a defined route, identified funding opportunities, and address the needs of families from historically marginalized communities. In the face of a global pandemic, much of our phase 2 and 3 was restricted to the digital world in the form of a public online input survey map. In a few slides, we'll talk about the results, but we also had to do additional effort to increase engagement from historically marginalized groups through one-on-one conversation with Latinx parents, and 3 focus group presentations, including joining the school district's Facebook Live broadcast hosted by Patricia Ortega Cooper. The PMT did successfully hold 2 in-person walk audits in the spring of 2021 and attended the back to school registration event at the middle school as well. During the walk audit, members of the PMT, the school administration, and parents walked around the campuses to get a feel of the chaos that ensues at drop off and pickup and identify any additional places of concern in person. So circling back to the survey results, the following 2 slides depict a heat map. The highlighted areas most frequently commented on by our 135 survey participants. So this first map here is the response from asking, draw your route and add comments on where you have concern. As you can see, a lot of the red falls within the Heights Urban Renewal District. This map here is the result from the question, share points of concern throughout the whole study area. And again, you can see a significant amount are within urban renewal zones. Okay, So combining all the existing policy and input from the school going community, Alta and the PMT developed a recommendation route map, which you can see here. I am in the process working with school officials to finalize any kind of modifications to this route map before we make a formal City of Hood River Safe Routes to School map. So ultimately, the PIP project culminated in a report. And the Hood River Safe Routes to School plan report. In it, the team identified 31 infrastructure projects that range from improved crosswalk maintenance and signage to rearranging right-of-way usage. The full report, you can find that on our city website if you go to community and then Safe Routes to School. There's a hyperlink. So key takeaways from the report are some key Safe Routes to School locations. You can see all of them fall within the Heights Urban Renewal Zone. We also identified 3 larger scale projects that are eligible for ODOT grants, 2 around the middle school, and then 1 along Indian Creek path. Beyond the infrastructure, the report also offered educational program recommendations. Of note, the school district applied for and was awarded a 2-year grant to fund a coordinator, and we're very happy to have her on board. Her role will take on the job of creating sustainable education and safety programs at the entire county school district level. It's a couple of touch points in the process. In 2022, we adopted the plan in May. During the budget meetings the following year, we won a $50,000 annual allocation of general fund to go towards Safe Routes to School plan projects. And again, reiterate, the school did receive its coordinator award. So the next steps in the Safe Routes to School world, again, working on that map and official route. Then we'll start working on actual infrastructure projects, crosswalk and intersection updates, working on incorporating recommendations into TSP updates, and same where we can collaborate for demonstration projects going forward. So super quick. That's that. Questions? Comments? Praise.
Anybody got any questions?
Yes,
Go ahead, man.
Yeah.
Just trying to figure out, but, so it sounds like you're like identifying problem spots and solutions, but it does sound like demonstration projects are gonna happen, not permanent changes. Is that
No, fortunately, no. These projects were all intended to be implemented. There wasn't any engineering done, so it is all conceptual and guidance. But it was the intent that these would be implemented. So the demonstrations that, like I'm working with the school wants to have a demonstration on the middle school next fall. So that demonstration is kind of an aggressive street treatment, and it's going to see how that fits in the community, how the community receives it before we implement it or adjust it to implement. So and then in smaller projects such as the crossings of Wilson and 12th, Wilson and 13th, recommendations say add a flashing beacon and add crosswalks, right? So those are things that we can do within city budget, and the larger ones will have to be demonstrated out and designed and engineered and hopefully granted, funded through grants. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. This for a while.
Yeah.
Process. We hope for the same process, the quicker one, but we also, I don't know what that timeline is. And
Sure.
all that, so.
Yeah, absolutely. So the good thing is, what came out of the report are recommendations. So it's a good guideline, and those guidelines can be completely fed directly into, Heights Urban Renewal. So I've been communicating with MIG so that when they do propose their designs, our recommendations are fit in and, reflected therein. So
You don't
that's,
think there'll be changes before this is done? He's done all.
if we do improvements before the design is done and implemented, those improvements will be things that are already a part of the future design. So if we put in flashing crosswalks and flashing beacons, those won't be torn out and replaced because that's part of what we'd want to do anyway. Yeah, great question. Thank you.
Any other questions? I have one, Jonathan. I'm assuming, with the exception of the ones that are within your Heights Urban Renewal, has there everything outside of that? Because I figured those will all get addressed with the urban renewal. Anything outside of that, have they been prioritized? Which are the more important ones or the most dangerous, like crosswalks, things like that? Outside of the urban renewal, have they been prioritized yet or not?
Not yet. Fortunately, unfortunately, most of the high priority projects are within that scope. They were very specific on the May Street crossings of 12th and 13th, the Belmont area, Pacific Avenue, which starts going outside of urban renewal. But we have not quantifiably ranked them on priority. But I do know that, with our annual budget, that we can start addressing some of the smaller ones while we work on finding funding and designing some of the larger projects.
Especially outside the urban renewal, because most of this will take care of itself within the urban renewal. And I agree with you that the highest priority ones, the most dangerous ones, are the ones inside the urban renewal. But in the other areas outside the urban renewal, can you give us an example of what you're looking at? Is it just crosswalks, bike lanes, or what are the main things that are needing to be addressed?
Sure. There's two really good examples of what some larger projects outside urban renewal zone would be. So the demonstration that I was briefly talking about out in front of middle school is one of them. And that's a very aggressive demonstration, a bigger redesign of the right of way. So that's going to address the disjointed 18th and 17th Street intersections right around the community pool, try and make sightlines better, provide safe biking infrastructure, or at least a demonstration to see if this works and how it fits in with the community and traffic flow. Another large project would be the Pacific Avenue right of way. There's a significant amount of community desire outside the school, but also within the school going community to provide safer bicycling and walking infrastructure from 12th Street all the way into the new Mountain Vistas neighborhoods. There are, of course, crosswalk additions. There's recommendations to redesign the way that we mark crosswalks, especially for school routes, adding flashing beacons at more heavily trafficked intersections, using the more continental traditional crosswalk marking instead of the parallel white lines and all that kind of physical updates.
I'm also curious to know about, I did notice the west side school area and the one on Country Club. What about those facilities? They're smaller areas and not necessarily within city limits. So would that fall under the ODOT? A portion of the ODOT grant or?
That's a great question. Thanks. So that was something that the PMT itself went back and forth on a lot. There is a lot of greater community concern, especially crossing Frankton and getting to West Side. Unfortunately, it is outside city limits. So as a city organization, we're very limited. But with the school district taking the lead in the coordinator position, and expand, and we're hoping it's going to expand beyond city limits to incorporate the urban growth area and, you know, communities like Odell and Parkdale as well. So this report did not address those areas just because it couldn't. But we took that information and passed it along to school district.
Questions or comments? Thank you, Jonathan, for the update. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Do you have anything else, Abigail, for urban renewal? Or you got the other comments, we'll wait till the end.
Yeah, that was it.
Okay.
And I guess I would ask you if you are interested in getting more updates on safe routes to school as things progress. We could share that with you in an email, or we can have Jonathan come back a year from now and give you an update on where things are. If that would be helpful. I think you appreciate that. Great. Thank you.
And it's nice to hear that he's working with Meg and the design and so forth, so solving some of the big issues all at one time. Before we move on to the items from members, you wanted some extra time, Abigail. I'll give that to you now.
Thanks, I appreciate that. Wanted to share, first of all, council meeting was supposed to happen last week, and a couple things had happened where we didn't have a quorum for city council, so they are meeting this Monday. And on their agenda is the appointment of a couple new members. I don't have it in front of me, so I'm not sure who are the folks being recommended, but it's in the packet. So you can share that. I think Abby is one of those being recommended for the appointments. To your act. So you'll have a couple new members starting January. In and started. As I mentioned, council had a work planning session on December 3rd. It was both the current council and the new folks. So Mayor-elect Blackburn, Councilor-elect Sakina, and Councilor-elect Polson. So we had 10 elected officials. That's a lot in one room. And they had, I feel like they had a really good day. They started with just talking bigger picture, what it means to govern, right? How do local governments function? I spent some time talking about what strategic planning looks like in a local government setting. And then we ended with where they truly kind of did some dot voting about what actual projects do they think might be priorities for the city. So I'm taking all of that information along with the information and sharing I've done with staff, and then feedback we received from the community, and then I will bring them in probably late January, early February, a plan for the year that that's my plan for them to either adopt or modify or change whatever they desire. But I want you to know that I think it's safe to say several urban renewal projects will rank highly on that list. I think the West Side Urban Renewal District formation, and of course, keep moving on the Heights are both things that I think got lots of dots. So we still have a lot of work for you all in the next year. So, but I will be sharing that information as that comes forward. I just wanted you to be aware that they had this meeting. It's all 8 hours are on YouTube if you wish to watch it. And just to be aware of that, we'll share more as that comes up. I also wanted to mention, if you might remember, we have a waterfront district, the Renewal district. It would be due to close in the next couple of years. The port had asked, and I think Michael McElway came and presented to you, remember that a couple months ago? The Urban Renewal Agency chose to kind of bless the port doing a study. I heard today, I've been waiting for that report, and I heard today it'll come in January. So once I have that, once I hear that presentation to the port, I will share that information. So that one is a little delayed, but it's still coming. And of course, that might influence what a future West Side Urban Renewal District might look like. So I'm really anxious to get that information. And then my final thing is, today staff had our kickoff meeting with Elaine Howard. She's the consultant the city and agency have hired to do a feasibility study for a West Side Urban Renewal District. We have a really ambitious timeline with the goal of doing a feasibility study, finishing that up by March, and then if there's a desire to move forward, to finish the district formation work by the end of September. So this is going to be a very busy time. Part of that involves Elaine coming to this group, so probably your February meeting, maybe January, more likely February. And presenting the concept, the boundaries, some of the growth assumptions, what some of the options might be, some of the projects that we might wish to identify for a potential district. So whatever time that is, we want to make sure that we have a good, lengthy meeting, and I'll probably assign you all some homework ahead of time so that you're ready for that conversation. The other piece I'll be bringing for you with in regards to the West Side Urban Renewal is we need a robust public engagement in that. And you have been our advisors on how to best connect to the community, who needs to be involved, who needs to be consulted, how best to reach folks. So we know for sure that the process will likely include an open house, and probably again, February, March, not the best time for open house. So I'll be looking to you for some advice on that. And then as the process continues, you might remember when I talked about a West Side Urban Renewal District, council direction at this point has been not to like just start from scratch, but really to implement the transportation system plan projects, to implement what we can from the affordable housing strategy, and to do some, whatever we can do to advance the parks, the interjurisdictional parks master plan. So 3 projects that already had their own public engagements, but now we want to talk about funding them. And so that's a really nuanced message to bring to the community. So I'll be looking to you for advice and help on sharing all of that. So we're gonna have a really busy, super fun next 6 to 9 months. So I think that's we'll need extra volunteers for sure. So I think that was kind of it, just on, I feel like all of our districts, it feels like every meeting, I'm bringing you a different district. I'm sure we'll have some height stuff coming up as the consultants begin their work. We're hoping that MIG anticipate they will finish up their work in July. So it's a little bit of a quiet moment for all of us while they're doing that. But in the meantime, I'm looking for West Side to finish and that. So every month a different district, but plenty to do. I think that was it. Do you have any questions or?
Any questions for Abigail?
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for the update. Appreciate it. Yes.
In our meeting minutes from the last one, we gave Dustin some homework.
Oh, great.
Finding some examples, so I just wasn't sure if,
You have any examples of?
roundabout, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
The double round,
Yeah.
wishbone roundabout.
Dustin is off this week, but I will put that in my notes and make sure either for him to send you just a report by email, or we can ask for a presentation for January.
Okay,
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Abby.
Mhm.
Okay, items from members. Clint, do you have anything? Abby? All good. Good. Kate?
Nothing.
Amanda? Nothing?
Just for me, it's my last meeting, as mentioned, just thank everybody here, it's been a good group, learned a lot, started in the group right when I moved to the city really, so, it's allowed me to learn a little bit more, inner workings, but, yes, wasn't able to continue on, I'm actually, taking on position as the community development director for Dallas, so it's just, I felt like I was missing too many meetings. I have planning commission on Thursday nights,
Oh.
so that's why I was always feeling like I was missing too many meetings. And I know the place that staff is put in when you can't get a quorum because volunteers don't show up, and I just really felt like I let down too many times. But yeah, glad I met everybody, and it's been great, and I'm excited to see all the projects come forward, and yeah, I'm definitely stay in tune with what's going on. It's really exciting. So I think the Good River is a perfect example of how urban renewal should work, and we have great examples of how it works. And it's something definitely hang our hats on, that this is how it's done, and, yeah, it's cool to be part of it, so thank you.
Well, thank you, Josh. Appreciate all the input over the years too. And this is my last one after 12 years. It's been an interesting 12 years. We've accomplished a lot. There's still a lot to be decided yet. And the one thing I've learned, I've worked for boards and committees my entire career. And it's always nice to see a group of people, all of us sitting around here didn't always agree with each other. But we sat, and one thing I appreciated about this group is everybody listened to what everybody else had to say and then felt comfortable saying what they needed to say, if they agreed or disagreed. And it taught me how to listen a lot more, because in the position I was in before, my word was final, that wasn't the case here. And then that's kind of the reason I wasn't chair. Jack was a little bit more diplomatic than me. I'm pretty straightforward, but I got to ask one thing of this committee. No matter with Jack being chairman or not, do not give in to him and put parking meters on the heights. And I want that in the minutes, Jen. Okay, no parking meters on the heights, no matter how much Trumbull wants it. So again, thank you all. And this meeting is adjourned.
Yeah, no comment.